Hi guys, I hope you're doing really well. My name is Sarah and welcome to What the Horror, the channel where we talk about horror movies old and new. So if you read today's title, you will know we are doing another tier list ranking, and this one is in honour of Scream 6 being released on the 8th of March. We are going to be ranking teen slasher movies, but more specifically, teen slasher movies that are Scream-esque, either directly inspired by Scream or have a very Scream-like feel to them. I have picked films that are from the 90s up to modern day, and if this one does well, if you guys like this teen slasher ranking, then I will do another one, teen slasher ranking part 2, where it will be from the 90s and before. So things like your Halloween, your Friday the 13th. So I have picked movies, we have about 22 or 23 to rank here, that I personally feel tick the Scream boxes, okay? They're generally following teenagers in either school or college. I think that to get that Scream feel, that's kind of a necessity. It's also got that same kind of 90s, early 2000s vibe, or it might be a modern day one that is trying to capture the feel of the Scream era of slasher movies. I have included the entire Scream franchise because in my opinion, what other movies are going to feel more like Scream than the Scream movies? But within the Scream franchise, I am aware that Scream 3 and, well, just Scream 3 basically, doesn't fit the category of following teenagers in high school or college, but 1, 2, 4 and 5 do, and so it just made sense to put 3 in as well. I have included 2 Final Destination movies, but only the first one and the third one, because in the franchise these are the only ones that follow teenagers in high school or college. So the rules are a little bit vague. You'll have to just bear with me and go with it because it makes sense to me and hopefully it will make sense to you. Of course, there may be some movies that you know of that you won't see on this list, and it's probably because I haven't seen them yet. I've only wanted to rank ones that I have actually watched. Okay, so to rank our movies, we have 5 categories. Starting off, we have absolute classic, self-explanatory, it's top tier. These are the ones that are setting the bar. These are the ones that tick all the boxes, just age really well, so rewatchable. Next we have a Scream. These are movies that are near perfect. They're a good time, they're well done, they're well crafted, rewatchable, but they're not quite top tier. Then we have Kill Some Time. These are the ones where they're not particularly good, but they're not particularly bad. Then we have So Bad It's Good. Now, these are films that are technically not good, but that I genuinely love and genuinely revisit and just find, I don't know, a je ne sais quoi, just something inexplainable in them that I love. And finally, we have Kill Me Please. These are the ones where I feel like I want those 2 hours of my life back, where I question how this got the go-ahead to be released. Okay, so first up we have Cherry Falls. This is a slasher that stars Brittany Murphy and Michael Biehn. I always get confused as to how to pronounce his name. It's an early 2000s one, in fact I think it might be 2000. It's pretty decent for a slasher movie, especially in the era where they were being churned out a lot. The concept is that the killer is killing off and targeting virgins, and so the kids in Brittany Murphy's high school decide that they need to lose their virginity so that they won't be targeted by the killer. It's an interesting and unique idea, and it also flips the whole final girl trope on its head, that no longer does the virginal girl survive, they are the ones being targeted. It is a little offbeat. To me, watching it, I really got the vibes of Twin Peaks from it, a little bit David Lynch in moments. And also there's Brittany Murphy she's playing the daughter of Michael Biehn's character, and there's just some odd sexual tension between them. It's a little weird at times, but I just adore Brittany Murphy's wardrobe in this. I want it. So for me, Cherry Falls is going to go in Kill Some Time. It's a fun watch. It's fine. I would recommend it. It's not the worst out there. Okay, next we have Fear Street 1994, which came out in 2021 now. This one for me is also Kill Some Time. I enjoyed the Fear Street trilogy when it originally came out in 21. I think 1994 was my least favourite of the instalments. I think they did a pretty good job of capturing the 90s, and it was definitely a nod or a love letter to Scream, so it definitely fits in with this category. But since watching it in 2021, I've not wanted to rewatch it. And the gore really did surprise me. There is a bread slicing scene, which if you've seen it, you know. So that did take me by surprise. But it's just, watched it, fine. I'm not going to revisit. Okay, next we have the Final Destination movies. And yes, I know that the kids are picked off by death itself, not a serial killer. However, the era that these were made in, just the aesthetic, the style, the fashion, it fits this category. Okay, so I'm going to do Final Destination first, and this one for me is a Scream. Now, when I was younger, I absolutely loved Final Destination, especially the first one, but I did like the whole franchise. I thought that it was such a terrifying idea that it wasn't a masked killer that you could outwit, that you could outrun, or you could outfight. This was death, and if your number was up, it was up. It just felt inescapable, and that to me was absolutely terrifying. Pre-Saw and all those kind of movies, these kills were quite, elaborate and just seemed really set up. And I think the majority of us that grew up with the Final Destination movies being released would never feel safe driving behind a log truck, or would maybe side-eye elevators or, tea towels that were precariously placed near a knife in a kitchen. I feel like the concept is still really good, really unique. I think the cast is not terrible, and a genuinely scary concept. Okay, next we have Final Destination 3, and this one I'm gonna bump down to Kill Some Time. Now, I know some people feel like Final Destination 3 is the best in the franchise and it's their favourite. I, in the beginning, would not have agreed about this. Over time I've come to enjoy it more. I think it does stand up better than perhaps the second one does. But if I was going to revisit a Final Destination film, I would revisit the first one and perhaps the fifth one, which I think is the second best in the franchise. But the third one, I think, what it is? I think what makes the third one suffer is it probably has the weakest opening dream sequence. You've got aeroplanes, you've got highway pileups, you've got bridge collapses, and even the terrible fourth installment has the racetrack one, whereas this one, roller coasters are scary, but this is just dealing with one carriage falling off the track. It's not as terrifying or elaborate as the others, and I think that's what hinders it. However, this one has some pretty iconic kills in it, like the nail gun kill. Okay, next we have Freaky, and this one is going to go in a Scream for me. I didn't watch Freaky when it was initially released. I think I watched it maybe a year or two ago. Really, really enjoyed it. I'm not usually a big fan of comedy horrors. They have to be done pretty well, a la Shaun of the Dead, for me to enjoy them. But I think Freaky did do it well. I think it was helped by having Vince Vaughn in it, who is a good comedic performer. It's the twist on the Freaky Friday idea where two people swap identities, swap bodies, in this case, a high school student and a serial killer. I think what I really enjoyed the most about it and how they handled it really, really well is the idea that, this serial killer is not only deadly and a killer, but he's Vince Vaughn. He's a big, tall, strapping piece of man meat, and that would be intimidating. And then, I forgot her name, I forget her name, she's in Supernatural, but she plays the lead, and there's a lot of play on her feeling vulnerable, feeling weaker by being female, but being shorter as well. And so they really play into that switch, allowing her to be in this imposing body. It really helps her feel more confident and finding that inner strength. But I think that the film does it really well. I think the comedy works. I think the kills are great. It's really violent. Again, that surprised me how violent it was. There's a good kill in, I think, is it the woodwork shop with a buzzsaw? Yeah, highly recommend this one. Really good time. Might not be for everyone if you don't like comedy, but I recommend it. Okay, next up we have Freddy vs. Jason, which for me is going in so bad it's good. Now, I really like Freddy vs. Jason. This was actually the first Jason Voorhees movie that I watched, so it wasn't the best incarnation, but I think it works really well as a Freddy movie. If you had grown up being a fan of these two killers, this must have been an amazing moment, seeing these two face off against each other. Oh, I don't know what it is about this. It's just a good time. It's not technically great. The acting, the dialogue is not fantastic. It's just fun. I do enjoy this. If I was going to choose to watch a Friday the 13th film, this would be up there with one of my choices, because a lot of them become copy paste repeat and this stands out as a little bit different. And I love the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. I'm always happy to revisit the Elm Street house. So okay, next we have Halloween H2O, or Halloween 20, and this one for me is a Scream. I really like this film, and this could potentially be my favourite of the franchise. I mean, yeah, the original is up there, it's great, but sometimes I find it a little stale and a little boring. And you know, I'm of the generation that grew up with the Scream-esque movies. You know, this is my education on horror, you know, as a younger person. And Psycho is one of my absolute favourite movies of all time. So the fact that Janet Leigh appears in it, and you see the cameo of the car from Psycho, and then there's a few notes from the Psycho score, yeah, that alone makes this movie work for me. Okay, next we have Happy Death Day, and this one for me is a Scream. I rewatch Happy Death Day every year for my birthday in March. I had to watch it earlier this year just to refresh my memory to do this ranking, and I forgot how much I love this film. It's for a PG-13, or a, what would it be in England? A 12 maybe? A 15? You know, to say there's no gore or anything like that, this film is still brilliant. I think Tree is one of the best final girls in slasher movies, because she's interesting as she starts out as an anti-hero. She's not meant to be likeable, but she is still enjoyable to watch because of her sharp tongue, and it's a genuinely nice journey that she goes on. And again, this is another horror comedy that works well for me. I know it doesn't hit right with everybody. I know not everybody's a fan of it, and I don't think the sequel is as strong, but for a fun, easy watch with a likeable final girl and entertaining kills, yeah, I would highly recommend this, because even though the gore is missing, the concept being like Groundhog Day means that we get multiple deaths, we get creative with it, we get sad and serious deaths, but we also get tongue-in-cheek montage deaths, so they have so much creativity to play around with. Love this film. Okay, next we have House of Wax, and this one is so bad it's good. Again, this seems to get mixed responses. This is a typical early 2000s movie. It has a lot of the meanness, the nastiness, the snide comments between characters and unlikable characters who we're meant to root for being killed off. But it has a phenomenal early 2000s cast with Chad Michael Murray, Jared Padalecki, Alicia Cuthbert, and Paris Hilton. I mean, this movie knew what it was doing when it was released. They marketed House of Wax as, come see the film that kills Paris Hilton, come see Paris Hilton die. And honestly, the woman's not an actress, but she does an all right job. Yeah, so I think perfect time capsule. Some of the dialogue, a lot of the dialogue is really weak, especially the snide comments from the badass twin brother played by Chad Michael Murray. He's got an issue with loads of different people, including his sister, and I don't understand why. A lot of it doesn't make sense. There's a lot of these sort of knowing glances and tension, and yeah, early dialogue is really, really weak. Your final girl, Carly, is fine. I don't think she has great chemistry with Jared Padalecki, who plays her boyfriend, but she has the early 2000s final girl starter kit with the white vest top and the jeans, so you know, she's doing her job. And talking of Jared Padalecki, his death scene, sort of pre-death scene, is horrifying. The metal contraption in the basement where people are waxed alive, it still wigs me out. It still gives me the creeps. It's just such a horrifying concept, that image of him sat there with all these needles spraying wax around him. is really, really sad. It's a gruesome death scene. In fact, this is a pretty gory movie. You've got the bit where Carly's sticking a finger out of the grate, and then there's the other guy, bless him, who's waxed. But there is that funny scene where, I don't know, I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, pretty gruesome, pretty nasty deaths, but some humour to be found in them. Maybe that's just me. Okay, next up we'll have I'll Always Know What You Did, blah, blah, blah. Kill Me Please. If you've been on my channel for a while, you've probably heard me talk about this film. I hate this film. I didn't finish this film. Life is too short to waste time on this film. Okay, but on the same note, I Know What You Did Last Summer is an absolute classic. I love this movie so much. It's one of my favourite slasher movies of all time. I think it is, after Scream, the best 90s slasher movie or 2000s slasher movie, written by Kevin Williamson, who also wrote Scream, so that helps. Impeccable, absolutely impeccable 90s cast. Freddie Prinze Jr., Sarah Michelle Gellar, Jennifer Love Hewitt, Ryan Felipe. The concept is brilliant. The look of the fisherman and the fishing town, brilliant. The soundtrack, brilliant. I can't praise this movie enough. I think it's also one of those films where I don't just watch it and, you're seeing teens being hacked up and killed and you're like, yeah, this one actually genuinely moves me. I think that it's genuinely sad where some of the characters get offed, and one of them has such a drawn out chase scene and death scene, and it's really sad, really tragic, but great film. Cannot recommend it enough, and I'm so excited that another sequel has been announced, so we can just forget about I'll Always Know. Okay, so to complete the set, I Still Know What You Did Last Summer is so bad it's good. Now, this is not a great movie. This is a massive step down from the original, despite the fact that two of the original characters do return and they have great chemistry and they do a great job in their role. This is a massive step down, and there's questionable bits in it, like Jack Black being the Rastafarian. But because I love the original so much, I can't hate on this film. And there are positives. I mean, Jeffrey Combs is in it and Jack Black is in it, like I said. And, I'm a big sucker for nostalgia and nods to previous films. So when you have little nods to the original, that pulls on my heartstrings. That works for me. Okay, it's actually funny that this one is next on the list. So Prom Night, the remake, the 2009 remake, is a Kill Me Please. Now, this is a very soft Kill Me Please. This is no way in the vein of I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer. But this movie, in my opinion, is unremarkable. But the reason why it's funny that this one is next is because I was watching this film and the camera pans over the ocean sort of flying past you, and then there's a rock cover of an older song. This one's from the 60s, and then the title card comes on, and I was sat there and I was like, Prom Night? Yep, it's I Know What You Did Last Summer. We want our opening back. It's a complete rip of I Know What You Did Last Summer's opening scene. The remake does have a couple of positives in it though. I would say this has some really good soundtrack choices. The opening and ending song are really ones that I genuinely enjoy and I have in my playlist and I do listen to them. It also stars Idris Elba as a gruff, moody cop, and we love Idris Elba, so I mean, the man is carrying this movie on his shoulders. It also has James Ransone in it, who is the adult Eddie in the It movies. So again, another positive. He's underused, but I like the scenes between him and Idris. There is one thing that does stand out to me about this film. The premise of this film is that the lead girl, played by Brittany Snow, her teacher became obsessed with her, killed her family, and it's her, the film is her dealing with the aftermath. So this is a pretty traumatic event to happen to her, and yet when the teens, including this lead girl, arrive at the prom, they're joking and mocking one of the friends, Lisa, saying that the PE teacher is in love with her, and laughing and belittling it. I feel that's a really odd inclusion considering the overall premise of the movie. Okay, next we have Scream 2, and for me Scream 2 is an absolute classic. Is it as good as the first one? No. Is it perfect? No. Do I hate the scene where Derek the Dud sings in the cafeteria? Yes. But to say that this was a rush development and came out less than a year after the first one, it's still a remarkable movie. It's very much Scream. I love that we have the return of the Golden Foursome. We don't have that for very long. I think that they know their characters so well. The progression of it is natural. Seeing these different dynamics, especially the clashing between Gail and Dewey. I love that. I think Randy is better in this one than the first one. Maybe. Great setting on the college campus. I think that it gives them a good use of space for the killer to move around. I love the idea of it being a copycat. I think this is a really, really good, strong sequel. Okay, so next we have Scream 3, and Scream 3 for me is a Scream. This is, I think, a lot of people's worst entry in the Scream franchise. Not for me. I really like Scream 3. I think that it's refreshing after having high school, college, to have a completely different setup of Hollywood. I love the meta or film within a film idea. I think it's brilliant. We don't get enough Sydney, in my opinion, but I think that Dewey and Gail are strong enough characters to carry the film with less Sydney. It's got Carrie Fisher in it. What more do you want? Then we have Scream 4. This, like Scream 3, is a Scream. This is probably my least favourite of the franchise, but I do still enjoy it. I love that we go back to Woodsboro. I think that Jill is a pretty scary killer. Yeah, I think this is fine. Just, we don't really need the Vaseline filter on it. And we have Scream 5, which again is a Scream for me. This one, I think Radio Silence did a really good job. I'm excited to see Scream 6. This, is brilliant again to go back to Woodsboro, but not just go back to Woodsboro, kind of bring it round full circle, bring in ties from the original killers, the original third act house. Each of the Golden Trio, we don't really get enough time with, but I think each character is done beautifully and done respectfully, and I'm still not over that scene. And so finishing off the Scream franchise, we have the OG, which is an absolute classic. Scream is my absolute favourite movie of all time. I just recently rewatched it because with Scream 6 coming out, there's going to be a lot of Scream content on my channel, so be prepared for that. So I just rewatched it in research for another episode, and I just love it as much each and every time. You've heard me praise this film so many times. My favourite film, favourite final girl, favourite slasher. I think everything from the dialogue, the casting, the soundtrack, it's all brilliant. I also think the original has the best killer reveals, the best killers in it. So, yeah. It is the OG, it is the full packet, it is the thing that inspired this tier list ranking. Okay, next we have Sorority Row. This is again a remake. This is a remake of House on Sorority Row. This one is so bad, it's good. This is definitely a guilty pleasure. So Sorority Row is, like I say, a remake of House on Sorority Row. It's set in college. You've got a bunch of sorority sisters. The lead sorority sister, I think she's called Jessica. Fantastic. One of the best things about this movie. She's a typical mean girl, but her wit, her sharp tongue is absolutely hilarious. She has some incredible lines in this. I would rather watch her than the actual final girl of the film. Although technically we get final girls. Some of the dialogue in this is atrocious. Like, one girl is told that she should be bulimic. She would benefit from that because, this skinny supermodel is clearly a heifer. There's lots of slut shaming and things like that, so the dialogue's not brilliant, but it does have Carrie Fisher in it again. There's a trend here, you put Carrie Fisher in a movie, slap her in it, and I'm gonna give you kudos for it. She's great as the house mother. She's hilarious, she's badass, she walks around toting a shotgun, chasing the killer down. She's not afraid. She's like, you think you're scary? I run a sorority house. And, if you know me and you've been around a while, you know that I do get really bored with the third act of slasher movies and just some horror movies in general. But I don't get bored with this one. This one's pretty good. Okay, next we have The Faculty. Now, this might bother people or surprise people, but I'm putting this in an absolute classic. This is 97 or 99, I believe. Really good 90s cast. You've got Usher in there for some reason, Clea Duvall, Josh Hartnett. Before you say, I know that The Faculty is technically not a slasher, and I'm kind of breaking my own rules for this ranking with it. It's an alien movie and not a serial killer movie, but this just has such an incredible atmosphere to it. This is a pure 90s movie. This soundtrack is incredible. I mean, you've got covers of David Bowie, you've got covers of Alice Cooper, you've got covers of... And the cast is really good. It perfectly captures the 90s. The way it's shot, you have some really creative moments where things are kind of slowed down. Yeah, I love this. I love how it feels. I don't know, when I was younger, The Faculty felt gritty and full of attitude, and I loved it. So yeah, I don't rewatch this as often as I should, but I think it deserves more recognition than it gets. But on the opposite end of the scale, we have There's Someone Inside Your House, which was 2021, I believe, and this is a kill me please. This was my worst film of 2021. I know some people loved it, I did not. This is kind of a tip of the hat, a nod to Scream. In fact, it basically ripped off Scream's opening scene in this one. I was bored in this film. I found this film predictable. My eyes ached from rolling them so much when watching this film. Okay, next up we have Urban Legend. This was 98, I believe, and this one is a Scream. On this most recent rewatch, I realised that this does not get enough credit and recognition that it should do. Is it a perfect movie? No. Are there weak bits to it? Yes. The most blatant weak bit is the wooden, boring as hell final girl. Her voice irritates me. Sorry. Her voice irritates me. No offence to you, lady. But the rest of the cast is just brilliant. You've got Michael Rosenbaum, you've got Tara Reid, Joshua Jackson in his bleached blonde hair, you've got Jared Leto. But the best thing, and I wish I could remember her name, I've just remembered it, Rebecca Gayheart. Rebecca Gayheart as, well, she's the best friend of the final girl. She's the best thing about this film. That and also the killer reveal. The whole, I said it in my review on Letterboxd if you saw that, but the whole, you know, I'm the killer, this is my plan, this is my motive, I'll tell you everything before I kill you, is phenomenal. It's so entertaining to watch and just underrated. It also has horror alumni up the wazoo. You've got Robert Englund as a professor in it. You've got Danielle Harris as the final girl's roommate, like this goth roommate. How could I forget? It also has Brad Dourif in it in the cold opening, which, I mean, it's not quite Scream level, let's be real, but is a really, really strong cold opening, especially all played out with the soundtrack of Total Eclipse of the Heart in the background. Yeah, just good. And our final movie on the list is Valentine. And this one is so bad, it's good. And to be honest with you, I think I'm being a little harsh on some of these. I mean, Valentine and House of Wax are really not that bad, but they deserve more recognition than Kill Some Time. They're not just, yeah, it's fine. While it's not technically perfect, and some of the acting and dialogue is not great, which is kind of a complaint I have with a lot of these in So Bad It's Good, I love Valentine. I rewatch this every single year in February along with My Bloody Valentine. I think that the aesthetic of the roses and the hearts and the cherub killer are really, really good. I love a lot of the... Well, no, I don't love a lot of the girls in it. I think I love two. I love Lily and Paige, who's played by Denise Richards. So come on, a Valentine movie with Denise Richards in it. That's reason to watch it enough. The kills in it are kind of tame, I would say, and there's also a pretty questionable inclusion of a character who is a crossdresser. His portrayal is not great, that's not aged very well. But, you know, the problem is with these films that are made in a particular time, they often do capture the opinion of the time, and that doesn't age very well. But if you can overlook that, yeah, it's pretty good. Okay, so there you have it, guys. That is my tier list ranking of teen slasher movies a la Scream that I would recommend any of the films from absolute classic, a Scream, or So Bad It's Good. I would recommend any of those. So I know this was a bit of a higgledy-piggledy subject, but you'll come to realise that when I'm doing tier rankings, I kind of beat to my own drum. I have my own ideas and kind of go with that, so I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, like I said at the beginning, if you did enjoy this and you want part 2 where it's older teen slashers like Texas Chainsaw, Slumber Party Massacre, Nightmare on Friday and all that kind of thing, then yeah, I will do another one for those. I won't include all the sequels because, Friday has 20,000 sequels. But yeah, if you would like to see that, let me know and I will do that at some point in the future. As I also said, Scream 6 is coming out on the 8th of March. I'm so excited, and as this is my favourite film and horror franchise, there will be content celebrating the release of Scream 6. My next episode will be a truly horror episode, which is the true story that inspired the original Scream. I will also be doing a movie review of Scream 6, and then I will be doing another episode, or maybe 2, based around Scream. Depends on if you guys are burnt out on Scream at that point. But in the meantime, thank you as always for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. Take care of yourselves, and I will talk to you in the next episode. Bye, guys.